Welcome to Before the Bell, your home for actionable pre-market content. Good morning, traders. This is Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass with your morning look at markets for Tuesday, February 1st. It is 6:28 a.m. as I'm starting the video. And as always, please run your video player at 1.5x. I don't talk particularly fast, and that'll speed things up for you and you won't miss a thing. Taking a quick look at markets. Equity is more or less flatlining. I got them down about 0.2% at the moment. Gold's up 0.7. Other than that, everything is pretty much flatlining this morning. On the macro front, we've got manufacturing PMI. We've got ISM numbers, JOLTS, and construction spending. Got a busy day on the earnings front. We've got ExxonMobil before the bell, UPS, Pulte Homes, and Lennox in the industrial space. Busy earnings after the bell as well. We've got AMD, PayPal, Google, Starbucks, Electronic Arts and Gaming, and Gilead. If you go on the website, there's a full calendar there, and you're always welcome to go to Earnings Whispers. Nice little website that does a great job of laying out the calendar. If there's other names or if you want to follow along more closely, we're in the peak earnings season. So, I mean, there's dozens and dozens of names today. And, just as a reminder, periodically go through your holdings, especially if you're trading individual names so you don't get caught not knowing when earnings are for something that you're holding. I've been trapped in that situation quite a number of times over the years, just not being attentive to, when earnings are, or I thought they were on Thursday, but then they were really on Tuesday, and then you're holding the bag, and, sometimes you get lucky and, stock goes up. A lot of times you're not lucky and, goes the wrong way on you. Absolutely no edge whatsoever in trading those earnings. So I usually try to get out, but when I'm asleep at the wheel, then, bad things usually happen. So stay on top of your earnings dates if you're trading individual names. So we got a lot to do this morning. Let's start out with the VIX. We had the rocket up last week, and now we've come down to this 25 level. And I think that's a beautiful pivot level for you to key off of today and in the days ahead as well. We've come back down almost half of what we went up. We started at 18 and we went to 40, let's call it. And now we're back to 25. So big retrace there. So now what you can do on your dashboard is just, toggle off of 25. If you see it rising, that means they're buying more puts on the SPX. And if it's falling, volatility is coming out of the market. So that's usually a positive sign. What you don't want to see is a falling a rising VIX with a rising market. That's usually a warning sign. So when both are green, that's a yellow flag. Now, moving on to the Nyse Oscillator, you can see that we were down at 90 days ago, and now we're all the way up to minus 14. So we got the big bounce that we were looking for, and I'll keep saying it till it doesn't work, but NYMO stands undefeated. It's kind of like Father Time. Father Time waits for no one. NYSE NYMO, when it gets down to those levels, I know it's scary, but you got to respect that rubber band, and it just can only stretch so far. So hopefully you played that right. And actually on the blog site this morning, got a couple graphics where retail has a very difficult time with this. Usually they're buying puts, waiting. We've already had a dramatic fall. Fear rises. Everybody buys puts, and then they rip it the other way. So I think we handled that pretty well. I apologize that I'm not able to show you the NASDAQ oscillator. There's something going on at stock charts. I've let them know about it. They haven't updated my NYMO, NAMO, for the NASDAQ oscillator. If you have a different platform, then you can look that ticker symbol up. But I can assure you it's bounced to, comparable levels. And if you go on the blog site this morning, I've got quite a number of charts on percentages of stocks over their 20 for the different market segments, the small caps, mid caps, large caps, and NASDAQ. And you can see that there's an uneven bounce going on. So I think that will be informative for you. So let's dive into the indexes. We had the rounded bottom. We were able to recapture the 200 here at 436.50. We've come up through the fib retracements, and now we are right here at 450, and that's a very, very key spot. Why? Couple of things. We are at the bottom of the $20 trading range that we had dropped out of from 470 to 450. That gave us a measured move target to 430, which we nailed. Now we're on the way back up. And so now we've got the falling 20 EMA coinciding with the lateral resistance at the bottom of the trading range. So 450 is your pivot. Now is a time where we've got to be on our toes, because we're getting into a zone where they could easily reverse it. The title of this morning's video is It Gets Harder Now. We've got the impulsive move off of the lows, in dramatic fashion into month end. That is, month end window dressing, month end rebalancing, oversold conditions. That's a recipe for a bounce. We got that. And now it's all a matter of extending and not getting all wrapped up in, oh my God, we're going to new highs. I don't think that's the case. I think we got to be real careful here. And so if we can punch above, move to the 2-hour here. If we can punch above 450, then we got a chance for like 453. I've got a level there. But above that, we've got the 618 retracement at about 456. And then we've got a gap starting at 459. So those are upside targets and resistance levels if we can break above 450. And so we're at that 50% retracement level as well. So, key spot. Don't get too far out over your skis on the long side. Be nimble here. I think there's a good chance we can go up, and we know that gaps get filled. We just don't know when. So we've got an uptrend line here. So let's look at the scenario. Left side of the W, we come up. We trigger the level. That would put us up into this 460 area. And then if we pop that, we could go up, back touch this trend line, and then reverse. But I want to say it really clearly. I think we go lower. I don't think we rip to new highs. Now it's all a matter of timing the reversal, seeing how far the bounce will take us, be keenly aware of overhead resistance levels, and see where we get a stall. So that's what I'm thinking. But this 450 is really, really an important level. And here you can see some granularity on the different levels. Here's our 450, some little micro levels in here. Notice that above 450, we go into I wouldn't call it an outright void, but an area of reduced volume over price resistance. And then we've got a big bar that comes in about 455. So if we can pop 450, I think we can get 5 points out of it. And what I would be looking for is we want to see momentum and RSI hold these trend lines. You don't want to see this roll over and then start coming down. That would probably indicate at least a short-term pullback. So be aware of that. But I think we've got these levels pretty well defined on SPY. Same thing on the Qs. I mean, it's remarkable. All these indexes and charts have all bounced to very key levels and stopped on a dime where you would expect them to yesterday. So QQQ, let's go through it quickly. We've got the 200 EMA at 363. It stopped at 363.05. So 363 is your pivot. If price can recapture the 200, feather in the cap for the bulls, we can extend up towards 369.50 is the 50% retracement area. And then the 618 comes right in with this gap on the chart. And I'll show you that here. I think if we can pop this 363, I think we got a shot at 360 and then, 370, and then a shot to move to the bottom of this gap that runs from about 375 to 380. If for any chance we make it all the way back to 380, that would be a place to consider pulling the ripcord or dialing it in really, really close, because we've got the declining 50 and we've got the top of the gap and we've got key resistance at 380. I would be willing to put some money on the fact that I doubt we're going above 380. That would look like a really nice symmetrical W formation, come right back up, and then roll over from there. Here it is on the 30-minute chart. Notice above 363, we've got a void in the charts. So I think that could be a quick move up to 370 if we can get a pop above 363. Moving on to IWM. Again, key spot. We've moved up to this 202 level. If we can pop that, I think we got a chance for 206 and then 210. Looking at the chart on the 2 hour, you can see here we've got the 38% retracement level just above at 202. I would use that as your pivot this morning. one nice thing that happened for the bulls is that we were able to take out this downtrend resistance line. And so now if we can pop 202, we can get a run to 206. We've got the 50% retracement level at 207. And then we've got big resistance at 210. So I think I think we could potentially get $8 more out of this bounce, come right into 210 and die. If the bounce remains super strong, we've got a gap to fill. But I think that 210 is going to be really tough sledding. And again, here on the 30-minute chart, you can see that above 202, we got a little gap in the chart. So I think that you could get a fast move from 202 to 206. Again, Facebook. Before I get into this, I want to welcome any new visitors to the YouTube channel. As you can tell, my analysis centers around technicals and serving up to you key objective levels to trade against, where you can devote 100% of your efforts on executing your trades around these levels. And, once you get to the point where you can trust me by watching the work, seeing how price reacts at the various levels, you'll build that confidence, and then you'll get better as a trader by working on your execution. That's obviously one thing I can't do for you, is pull the trigger and manage the trades. So if that interests you, please hit the alarm bell, the subscribe button, the post notification icon. That way you'll be notified of my YouTube content. And then jump over in the show notes and join the team. You'll find a link there that'll take you to the blog site where you can drop in your email address. You'll get all my content morning, noon, or night right to your email box. You won't have to go hunting for it. And then if you really want to go the extra mile, you can forward the link along to other people in your trading circle. Help me get the channel out there, and I would really appreciate that. And of course, longtime listeners, thank you so much for the support. So, getting into Facebook and the FATMAAN names, we're on the daily time frame here. You can see that we've come right up to the daily pivot at 315. We've got big resistance at 324, 325. You can see at 325, we've got the converging 200, the 50, and lateral resistance at 325. That would be a place that if you got long down here at 290, or bought the reclaim of 300, or bought the reclaim of 305, or get long this morning on a break above 315, I'd be winding it down at 325, where you've got the lateral resistance, the 200 and the 50 all converging at one spot. Here it is on the 60-minute chart. You can see that we've got a 60-minute downtrend line that may pose a little resistance here above 315. But I think if we can pop 315 this morning, I think we got a good chance of making 320. And if the market helps, I think we can get to 325. And we do have part of this gap to fill. So if things get really energetic, we could defy the odds and fill that gap up to 332. Apple had a great day yesterday. You can see here that we had these support zones identified. We had this intermediate trend line. We had the support zone here between 157.50 and 160. We came down, made a base, reclaimed 160. There was a buying point, and then we have reclaimed these moving averages, moved above 170, and are making a run at 175. I think that's your pivot today on Apple with a breakout there. You got a chance at 181. Let's look at the 60-minute chart. I mean, this has been kind of a thing of beauty. You know, we had a gap and go, little flag under resistance. We broke above the 50 in this 168.50, went right up and broke through 170. Another flag under resistance, 173.5, and then final candle of the day broke up. So I think you can stay long against 173.5. If you get a little weakness on the open and you get this thing to pull back into 173.5, I'd be a buyer there. You can put a stop like at 172 or less if you want to keep a tighter leash on it. But if you get a back test here, I think we got a good chance to go up to 175. I'm actually long Apple, actually long a number of the FATMAAN names, and so looking for higher prices. And you can see that 177, it's going to get a little bit tougher with this prior low. Tesla, big day yesterday, up 10%, $90. We had the levels here, as you see, came down and tagged 800. We reclaimed the 200 and this lateral support right here at 860. Big candle. Today, we got to clear 960, I think, for a leg higher. It's going to get a little tougher. We've got this bottom of the range here at 1,000. We've got an uptrend line that could be potentially back touched and rejected. So let's take a look at the 60-minute chart. We did break out of this downtrend channel. I've got this fine-tuned here a little bit. I think above 940, if you're trading tight time frames, you can get a push up to 970 and then 1,000. So there's a little bit more room on the upside, I would say, but you don't want price to fall back in to the downtrend channel. You know what we say about that. Once you go out, you want to stay out and you don't want to come back in. So, but Tesla certainly had a strong day today, strong day yesterday. Microsoft more or less underperformed. It was only up 1%. Started out the morning strong and then kind of died. But here we are. We've broken the downtrend line. We've recaptured the 8. We've recaptured the 20. And now we've got a level at 312.50. And be aware of the 50 EMA that comes in at 316.35 right here. That would be a logical point that price could get rejected. If it can get through the 50, that would be pretty bullish. Give you an open door up to 320 and potentially up to this gap. Let's show it on the 60-minute chart. You can see that we made a run at 312.50 at the top of the morning and then, kind of faded and then had a good closing candle. So I think you can stay long against 310, but really it's got to get over 312.50, and then you've got the 50 EMA coming in, and then you've got some resistance here about 318. So there's some work to do on Microsoft. Amazon, nice bounce off of this level. Look at all the candles down here showing that the bears ran out of power. Got back above this 29.50. I think clear as day, 29.50 is your go, no-go line at the bottom of this $600 wide consolidation range. I think if the bounce continues, I think you can make 3,100 as your next overhead resistance level, and then above that, 3,175. Looking at Google, nice bounce. Got above 2,700, not by a lot, 2,706. We've got an intermediate downtrend line here. I think as long as you can hold like 2,690, something like that, right here, you can stay long and then look for 2,750 above and 2,800 after that. If you lose 2,675, I'd be concerned about that. I think it could roll back down into this 2,625 area, but the bounce is proceeding, and we've actually got Google after the bell today. So if they're feeling it, they could run it up today into the print. But be aware of that, and don't forget that earnings are after the bell. I wouldn't want to be, well, that's personal preference. I don't like holding through earnings. We've already discussed that. If you've got a strategy or you're a long-term holder and willing to take any pain on earnings, then knock yourself out. Netflix was a nice trade yesterday. We had been following the gap down, some consolidation. We got a gap up with Bill Ackman and Reed Hastings. I think Reed Hastings bought $20 million. That's like you or me buying $20 worth, based on our net worth. But be that as it may, it's a positive signal by the CEO, and that has lifted the stock. I think you can stay long against 420 and see how high it can go. We've got a daily pivot up here at 460. Usually when you have any kind of a gap, the midpoint of the gap is a line of demarcation. And if we were to drive up over 460, that would certainly be a place where I would be, rolling up my strikes, booking any profits that I had, and then you can stay long against 460 and then look for the other half of the $100 gap. So Netflix is looking productive. Really important level here on semiconductors. 275 is your clear pivot. We came down. There was a gap here. We filled that gap and reversed. We recaptured the 200. We're right here at the prior breakout level at 275. If we break above that, 280, and then I think it's 288 here. We'll see it. Yeah. So here's 275. That's an important level. Then we've got 280 and then 287.50 at this prior low. It's got obviously AMD after the bell. So if AMD is strong and runs into the print, that would be helpful. But I think it's pretty clear that 275 is your pivot for this morning. And notice we've got a prior high here and a little kickback high here at 280. If it can clear 275, 280, I think you get a quick move to 287.50. Notice the void in the volume over price profile. When you see those voids, it can be a location where price can move very quickly. So I think that one is worth, setting an alarm and being ready for into that void on the chart. So, little recap. VIX is at 25. That's a perfect toggle point to watch. The speed and viciousness of the bounce stopped right where it's supposed to, more or less at critical junctures across SPY, QQQ, IWM, and all the FATMAAN names that we actively trade. Be on your toes. This rally can extend, but it's not a guarantee at this point. Know where your overhead levels are. Don't get greedy. Realize that the oscillators have bounced to the midpoint of their range, and so that big impulse is over, and now those oscillators, yes, they have momentum to the upside, but they're not going to have any predictive value now that they're back in the midpoint of the range. So now it's all about follow through. It gets harder from here. When it gets harder, you got to be more attentive. And I'll leave you with this. Make sure getting paid is part of your plan. Do not sit there with heavy embedded gains in your options and be all proud of yourself without going to the bank. It's not yours till it's in the bank. So roll up your strikes, roll up your stops, participate in this rally as long as we can. Let's not doubt it. Let's not cut it short, but have those overhead levels of resistance at the forefront of your thoughts and look for signs of a stall or even a reversal. And I think you'll be very happy with how things turn out. And I will certainly let you know when and if I see an upside problem, like when I think the rally is running out of gas. I will certainly let you know that. And then what I anticipate doing is transitioning back towards leaning short. So let's take it from there. Hope you guys have a great day of trading. This has been Chris Best with Traders Profit Compass. Talk to you next time.